as a young guy, you never want to be the person, either in the group or just a guy in general, to be seen as like mentally weak. The anxiety sort of came back again. I was like, oh my God, like, have I got to go through this again? Alright, well I never actually thought I'd be making this video, but just because I've gained like 100 subscribers since I've started this channel, I feel like it's about time I actually explain to you as an audience what I go through day to day and just what my life has been like, and just more about me, to be honest, because I feel like that's a great way for you lot to actually resonate with me and just understand me more as a person and why I do these YouTube videos. So just to preface this a bit, I don't want any attention, that's not why I'm doing this video, but I do want people to understand that people like me that may come across as very confident making these videos and going to the gym and all that also have things going on in their life that you may have not expected. And on top of that, I sort of want to be a role model for the younger generation now that I'm getting into my early 20s, just for that audience to understand that you can and should speak about your mental health and your feelings and things like that. So let's get started. So I'm going to start off just by speaking about my upbringing and just sort of my childhood, I suppose. So my parents always said to me that when I was a baby, I would just cry non-stop. I would just cry all the time. I was never like happy, I suppose. I don't know. Obviously, I don't remember because I was that young, but that's what I was told. I just always cried. And so much so that my parents had to tell themselves that one day it'll be over. You know, he'll be old enough to not cry all day, every day. And they'll get past it, but it's just, you know, like a baby stage, I suppose. And so that was me as a baby. And then as I got into my toddler years, that sort of turned into anger. So between the ages of like 4 to, I want to say 16, maybe 15, all of that emotion was anger instead of crying. So because of that, my parents got me and my brother into doing karate. And that was like one of the biggest blessings of my life ever, is that they got me into a martial art that, one, helped me have an outlet for my emotions, but in the right way as well. Like if they got me into yoga, you know, that's an outlet of your emotions, but not in the right way because I was always angry. So I was able to, one, get my anger out because you like punch people, kick people, but with control. And that's a key thing that I also learned, how to control my anger and utilize it in the right scenarios. So if I had a really bad day and I had loads of pent up emotions and I knew we were going into karate doing sparring, I could let it out all then. And it was because of that that I relatively excelled in karate, as well as my brother. I think we both just managed to apply ourselves both pretty well into that sport. And then I remember when we were in primary school, I got into like kind of a primary school fight, I suppose. I mean, it's primary school, so is it ever really a fight? But what happened was, I think he took me down, and he'll know I'm talking about him if he watches this video. So yeah, he took me down, and then I was like pinned, basically. My arms were pinned, my legs were pinned, and I was super angry. I couldn't get out. Obviously, I was still an angry child. So all I could do was bite him. So I bit him like here, like on the side of his chest, because that's just all I could do. I had no other reaction, or to be honest, nothing else I could actually do. And then I remember the next day I got in massive trouble with obviously his parents and the teacher. But I thought that was very unfair because obviously he pinned me down, and that was just like me trying to get out of being pinned down, I suppose. So then, because of that, my parents put me into jiu-jitsu or grappling, and my dad had actually been doing grappling for a few years then. So we thought that was also a great way to sort of have another outlet, but also do another martial art and just keep me focused on something else. And my karate teacher at the point had started doing like grappling classes, very basic grappling classes, but it gave you the fundamentals, and if you were ever in a pinned situation, you would have more knowledge than the average person to, you know, escape it and make sure you keep yourself safe, basically. So then I started doing jiu-jitsu, and then we get into secondary school where I'm still, you know, quite like, what's the word? Short-tempered, I think is the right word to describe it. I just like had a really short temper. I could get quite angry quite easily. And I was just such like a wind-up. People could wind me up so easily. And it just made me angry and got me in all sorts of trouble and stuff like that. And as we got into mid-secondary school, I was like 15, 16, like I said, all of this emotion or anger turned into like anxiety, I suppose. So I was just super anxious all of the time. And on top of that, I became super depressed. And I think a lot of the anxiety was surrounding a situation that happened when I was, I think 15. It was like a few months before we broke up for, or not broke up, but like had lockdown started. I was in like a really bad situation with a group of people that had knives and things like that. And it was just me on my own, but with like 15 other people. So that really messed with my head massively. It made me super anxious, like even more anxious than I was. So I had like my head on a swivel wherever I went, barely even went into public on my own. And even if I was with other people, I was super anxious about who else would be there. And, you know, I'd have to like look around and just keep my eyes peeled and stuff like that, or at least I felt like I needed to. So that just made my anxiety, you know, 10 times worse. And everyone sort of put it down to exam stress, because I was about to do my first lot, or second lot, sorry, of exams in year 11. And I suppose obviously a lot of people at that time get super stressed and super anxious, rightly so, but I knew it wasn't because of that. I wasn't stressed about my exams. I wasn't anxious about my exams. I just, you know, didn't seem to care too much about them. And in year 11, I also had my first panic attack, at least that I remember. I had a small panic attack a few years before that, but I don't really remember it too much. But year 11, I had my first proper panic attack, and it was in school. And I remember that a teacher actually pulled me out and sat me down and helped me through it and everything, and that was amazing. And because of that, I got put into the school nurse program, I suppose, or just I saw the school nurse occasionally to speak about my mental health. And it was sort of at that point where I was quite upset with myself, I suppose, because as a young guy, you never want to be the person, either in the group or just a guy in general, to be seen as like mentally weak. And although that's a very bad outlook to have on mental health, especially at that age, it just was the outlook I had, because a lot of the people I surrounded myself with, we were all very bantery, and our jokes were all quite like dark humour type, and obviously I joined in on that. But then them jokes obviously started to affect me, because I understood how it actually felt to be that anxious and that depressed. So moving on, I was with the school nurse, and she referred me to CAMHS, which is the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services. And if you know anything about CAMHS, their reputation isn't the greatest. And I knew this reputation because a few of the people I went to school with had been through CAMHS, or at least tried to, and sort of spoke to me about it and what they did for them, which in their case wasn't much. So if anything, that put my mind into an even more anxious state, because I was then like, am I going to go through this whole process but then not gain anything from it, if you know what I mean? So would it have even been worth it? But I did it anyway, and it was midway through the process that the first lockdown happened. So I thought, oh, okay, well, I don't know how much we're actually gonna get from this, you know, because you can't see anyone, you can't speak to anyone in person, you can't go outside or anything like that. So I was just sort of withering away in my bed, as I think a lot of teenagers were in that time, but with heightened anxiety and heightened depression, I suppose. And then I was going through all of the CAMS questions and things like that. They're just awful. They're really hard to answer, but not in that you don't have the answer. It's just quite like a heavy topic to speak about, especially when it's about yourself. So I do them constantly, like once a week, because they would call me once a week. But that was about as good as they could do, to be honest, given the circumstance. So I should probably cut them a bit of slack for that. But that really frustrated me, because I even said to myself before that it might be a waste of time. But they then said, because they wanted to do cognitive behavioural therapy, because my anxiety is social based, so like large groups and public places and things like that. But they couldn't do that because we couldn't meet anyone. And they basically said, we can either cancel your referral and then you just re-refer when we come out of lockdown and see if we can do things again, or we pause the referral and then we just resume things when you're ready, or just when lockdown's over and you can actually see people in public again. And I was just like, I was fed up, to be honest. I just said, let's just cancel it. You know, if I need it again, I'll come back and re-refer and whatever. But I just couldn't. I just really didn't want to go through it all again. So I just cancelled it. And then this is when the start of my gym sort of obsession came, because I didn't have an outlet anymore, because you couldn't do jiu-jitsu or karate, and everything was just like, you couldn't do anything. You know, you couldn't go outside. I mean, you all know that, there's no point me telling you this. But then me and my brother decided, well, let's get some dumbbells for home, because we might as well just keep fit, relatively fit at least, as much as we can. So we ordered this 120 quid pair of dumbbells from Sports Direct, and you had like the really bad plastic plates you put on the side. I think it was like 10 kilos per dumbbell if you added all the plates together. And then you could also make it a barbell by sticking a bar between the two dumbbells. So it was really odd. You'd have like plates, plates, and a bar in the middle. So if you want to do like close grip, it'd be really close. If you want to do wide grip, it'd be really wide. So we got them. And then this is when I actually started making my videos for the gym, but it was more just on like my Snapchat private story. So I would post them and just be like teaching myself little things, doing loads of research. Admittedly, a lot of the stuff I was posting was maybe not right. I was like posting about the amino acid ratios in BCAAs, but then you don't really need BCAAs if you're having enough protein and things like that. But you get what I mean. So that's how this all started. And then we fast forward to when we go back to school. And so I'm now in sixth form. And then I started posting TikToks. And I think my very first TikTok, because I wanted the whole TikTok to be like a, just a profile that is based off of everyone's achievements within the gym community, and just like news within the gym industry as well. So I think I named it like Gym Talk Central or something like that. And I posted a couple good videos that are quite cool. And then I think it was like my third video that blew up. I got like, it's still my most viewed video on TikTok, like 1.4 million views. And it was literally just a playlist for the gym. I don't know if you lot would have heard the sound that I used, but I'll try and like overlay it now. But yeah, that was my most viewed video and still is. And then it's just, I don't want to be cringy, but the rest is history, to be honest, in terms of my TikTok. And then I obviously started building up my Instagram as well, because this was around the time when I decided that I wanted to be a personal trainer, and I thought I should probably get a bit of a name for myself, or at least try to, and just build up all my social media accounts. It just gives me a bit of a head start, I suppose, in setting up a business, if you build connections with people and have an audience and things like that. So started doing the social medias. It was just good fun. It was all just a hobby, really. And then I started to take it super seriously. And the start of sixth form, and I'm still just super anxious and depressed, to be honest. Super anxious and depressed. And then being in sixth form didn't really help, because it brought back all the stress of being in education, considering we had just have like 6 months off school, which was nuts. And I didn't really want to go back into CAMHS, but I did still speak to the school nurse occasionally. We just sort of revisited things, and I said to her, I don't really want to go through CAMHS again. It's not really worth my time. It seemed like a waste of time last time, but obviously I appreciated the fact that she did it for me. But we made a point to stay in touch and see each other like once a week in the school, just to see how my mental health was. So let's fast forward a little bit to when I was around, I think I must have been 18 or 19, I can't really remember. Yeah, I was 18 and I met my now girlfriend, and I won't go into too much detail, but I was just not trusting at all. So we went through like a few months of like, oh, do I want to be in a relationship? Do I not? I was just super worried to put all my time into someone because they could mug me off and things like that. And then I went up to her university to see her, and then she actually came home that day and she dropped out of uni. And we were talking about it the other day actually, that I think if I didn't meet her, she'd probably still be in uni just for the sake of it. So it's like a blessing in disguise, the fact that she dropped out, although to most people that might seem like a bad thing. She's glad she's done it because she's doing all her social media stuff now. But anyway, up till about 6 months into the relationship, like I said before, I was super distrusting or mistrusting, or you know what I mean. I didn't trust her, but not that she ever gave me a reason to. I was just really anxious, and I think my social anxiety sort of led on to like relationship anxiety and stuff, like trust issues. And I sort of thought to myself that it wasn't fair for either of us for me to not trust her, because she's not done anything. You know, she does everything to prove that I can trust her. But then she suggested that I maybe see a therapist. And I was like, okay, well, I know quite a few people that see therapists and they might work. So I thought, well, let's try it. So started seeing a therapist, and it took 2 sessions for my therapist to diagnose me with OCD as well as anxiety. And that was just like, it was one of them things that was like, that makes so much sense now. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, but it just made so much sense that I have OCD. And she said a lot of it can be caused by the anxiety, and your OCD is a way of coping with it. So if you fix things that your OCD tells you to fix, your anxiety lessens. So that's sort of how that balance works. But then we got to like 12 weeks in. I was like, this is great, but I don't think I'm getting anything from it now. Like, I just understood how my OCD and anxiety worked, but didn't know how to actually face it or how to fix it, I suppose. Not that I don't like to use the word fix, but it is something I wanted to change and to fix about myself. So we just didn't know where to go from there. So I said, okay, let's just call it there. You've been great help, but I think I need a bit more now. So that was that with the therapy. I then decided that it was about time to start taking some medication, because I've been through so much in terms of trying to sort out my mental health, but nothing's worked. So I then spoke to my parents about it, because we're always really open about mental health and things like that. And so yeah, we decided to start going through the medication process to sort my mental health out. And I went to my GP and he was like, yeah, we can look into something, because he knows all of my mental health history and everything, and he thought it was right too. It was probably a smart decision. And it just so happened that he was starting a study, basically, where you would enter all your information into this software, and you would basically put on a scale. It would list loads of symptoms that you may get from certain antidepressants and anti-anxiety tablets, and you would put them in rank from 1 to 10 of what you don't really care about getting to what you really, really are bothered about having. So I don't know, if one of the symptoms is slight sweating for a month, then I put that at the top. But if another symptom was I don't know, erectile dysfunction, I put that at the bottom, because I want kids. So that's how that worked. And then it would suggest you a medication based on the symptoms that you've listed and how you've ranked them. And I thought, oh, that's quite cool, do that. Did it, and then I started taking the medication, and it's almost, not quite a year yet, but it was late June, and considering we're just about to come into May, 10 months I think that is, and I was literally going on holiday with my mates to Portugal for a festival a week after I started taking them. So I knew things would be difficult, but I'd get through it, because I'd be having a great time and things like that. So went on holiday. I was still very anxious, because they hadn't quite kicked in yet, and the first month or so is supposed to be the worst. It will even heighten your anxiety, which was something I was expecting, and one of the symptoms was sweating, and considering I was in a hot country, it just wasn't ideal. But I got through it. It was a great holiday, and then we were sort of relatively smooth sailing, and then I went on holiday to Morocco with my family without my girlfriend. And before we went on holiday, I was like, I don't think I can go away for that long without seeing her. And a lot of you might think that's ridiculous, but because my anxiety was so high, I just couldn't be away from her for that long. So we compromised and decided that she would come to Morocco halfway through the holiday. So I'd have 5 days with my family and then 5 days with her and my family, which was a great mix, because I got to spend some great time with my family as well as my girlfriend, and it meant my girlfriend could get a lot closer to my family, which is what I like to see, I suppose, and what I want to happen. And then we came home. It was all well and good. And then it was about, I want to say 6 months after that, maybe 4 to 5 months after that, that the anxiety sort of came back again. I was like, oh my God, have I got to go through this again? Because it felt like it was just a never ending process where I was just going through things over and over again, and I wasn't really getting anywhere. But my GP just said, you can up the dosage, because I was on half of the maximum dosage, basically, which is the suggested starting dosage. But I thought, okay, well, I don't need to go to the max dosage yet, but let's go halfway house and go in between the two. And it was like, yeah, cool, do that. And that is what I'm on now, and it seems to be working for me amazingly. And obviously I still get anxiety. It will never be not there at all. But it does help a lot with my depression and OCD. And to be honest, that is that. I hope you lot have gained a bit from this video, because it's taken a lot for me to film this. It's taken me so many attempts to film it properly, to give you lot a proper understanding into how I feel day to day and how I used to feel day to day. and also why I do these videos. Like, I don't do it for fame or for anything like that. I do it because, one, I love to share knowledge. Two, I want to be, like I said at the start, a role model for the younger generation, in particular boys, but girls as well, if you resonate with me, to show that you can and should speak about your mental health if it's bothering you. Because at the end of the day, the best way to deal with it is to speak about it, because the only way I got better is because I always spoke about it. And I understand, to a lot of people, you might feel like a burden speaking about it all the time, but I guarantee that your family and friends would rather speak about it to you all of the time than hear how depressed or anxious you are. I can say that for a fact, because everyone I've spoke to about it helps. And obviously there will be people that don't understand it, but then maybe they're not the people to speak to. But on that note, I wanted to just say that my Instagram and TikTok DMs and YouTube comments, even if you want to, are always open for people to message me. I want people to have this platform as a way to have someone to speak to if they need to, and if they don't have anyone else to speak to. But I hope you lot did enjoy this video. I hope you guys take something from it, even if you're not someone that suffers from mental health conditions. I hope you lot understand, or have a better understanding of mental health, and that a lot of the time you can't see what people are going through behind closed doors. So just, you know, have that bit of understanding with people, and just always speak to people. And even if you're not the person that's going through the mental health battles, speak to people that you think might be, or even that you don't think are, just to check on them and make sure that they're doing well, because they might not say it first time, but the more you ask and the more you show your care, I guarantee you someone will tell you something that you didn't expect to hear from them, and that will be an even bigger eye-opener to how many people are going through things. That's all from this video. Sorry it is a different video, but I thought it was a very worthwhile video to make. But I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.